Hello everyone. This is my first attempt at making my own YouTube video. Boys and girls, here is the book, Chrysanthemum. You did an activity about Chrysanthemum in your seesaw. Here is the story of Chrysanthemum. The day she was born was the happiest day in her parents' lives. She's perfect, said her mother. Absolutely, said her father. And she was. She was absolutely perfect. Her name must be everything she is, said her mother. Her name must be absolutely perfect, said her father. And it was. Chrysanthemum. Her parents named her Chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum grew and grew and grew. And when she was old enough to appreciate it, Chrysanthemum loved her name. She loved the way it sounded when her mother woke her up. She loved the way it sounded when her father called her for dinner. And she loved the way it sounded when she whispered it in the bathroom mirror. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum loved the way her name looked when it was written with ink on an envelope. She loved the way it looked when it was written with icing on her birthday cake. And she loved the way it looked when she wrote it with big fat orange crayon. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum thought her name was absolutely perfect, and then she headed off to school. On the first day, Chrysanthemum wore her sunniest dress and her brightest smile, and she ran all the way to school. Hooray for school, said Chrysanthemum. But when Mrs. Chud took roll call, everyone in the class giggled when they heard Chrysanthemum's name. Look at her face. How does she feel? It's so long, said Joe. It barely fits on your name tag, said Rita, pointing. I'm named after my grandmother, said Victoria. You're named after a flower. Chrysanthemum wilted. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect anymore. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. Not being very nice, are they? The rest of the day was not much better. During nap time, Victoria raised her hand and informed Mrs. Chud that chrysanthemum was spelled with 13 letters. That's exactly half as many letters as there are in the entire alphabet, Victoria explained. Thank you for sharing with us, Victoria. Now lay down on your mat, please. If I had a name like yours, I'd change it, Victoria said, as the students lined up to go home. I wish I could change my name now, said Chrysanthemum. Welcome home, said Mother. Welcome home, said Father. School is no place for me, said Chrysanthemum. My name is too long. It hardly fits on my name tag. I'm named after a flower. Oh, pish, said her mother. Oh, posh, said her father. Your name is beautiful and precious and priceless. It's fascinating and it's wonderful, said her father. It's everything you are, said her mother. It's absolutely perfect. Chrysanthemum felt much better after her favorite dinner, macaroni and cheese with ketchup, and a game of Parcheesi with Mom and Dad, and lots of hugs and kisses. That night, Chrysanthemum dreamed that her name was Jane, and it was a very good dream. The next morning, Chrysanthemum wore her most comfortable jumper. She walked to school as slowly as she could, and she dragged her feet in the dirt, and she wrote her name, Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. She even looks like a flower, said Victoria, as Chrysanthemum entered the playground. Let's pick her, said Rita, pointing. Let's smell her, said Joe. Chrysanthemum wilted. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. The rest of the day was not much better. During nap time, Victoria raised her hand and said, "A chrysanthemum is a flower and it lives in a garden with worms and dirt and other things." "Thank you for sharing that with us, Victoria," said Mrs. Chudd. "Now put your head down." "I just cannot believe your name," Victoria said as the students lined up to go home. "Neither can I," said Chrysanthemum. She was miserable again. "Welcome home," said Mother. "Welcome home," said Father. "School is no place for me," said Chrysanthemum. "They said I even look like a flower. They pretended to pick me and smell me." "Oh, pish," said her mother. "They're just jealous and envious and begrudging and discontented," said her father. "Who wouldn't be jealous of a name like yours?" said her mother. "After all, it's absolutely perfect, just like you." Chrysanthemum felt a trifle better after her favorite dessert, chocolate cake with buttercream frosting, and another evening filled with hugs and kisses and more parcheesi. That night, Chrysanthemum dreamed that she really was a chrysanthemum, and she sprouted leaves and petals, and Victoria picked her, and she plucked off the leaves and petals one by one until there was nothing left. It was the worst nightmare Chrysanthemum had ever had. Chrysanthemum wore her outfit with 7 pockets the next morning, and she loaded the pockets with her most prized possessions and a good luck charm. Chrysanthemum took the longest route possible to school. She stopped and stared at every flower. Each flower seemed to say, "Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum." That morning, the students were introduced to Mrs. Twinkle, the music teacher. Her voice was like something out of a dream, as was everything else about her. The students were speechless. They thought Mrs. Twinkle was absolutely incredible. They went out of their way to make a good impression on her. Mrs. Twinkle led the students in scales, and she assigned roles for the class musical. Victoria was chosen as the dainty fairy queen. Rita was chosen as the spiffy butterfly princess. Joe was chosen as the all-important pixie messenger. And Chrysanthemum was picked to be a daisy. "Chrysanthemum's a daisy, chrysanthemum's a daisy," Joe, Rita, and Victoria chanted, thinking that it was wildly funny. Chrysanthemum wilted. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. "What's so humorous? What's so funny?" asked Mrs. Twinkle. "Chrysanthemum," was the answer. "Her name is so long," said Joe. "It barely fits on her name tag," said Rita, pointing. "I'm named after my grandmother," said Victoria. "She's named after a flower." "My name is long," said Mrs. Twinkle. "It is," said Joe. "My name would barely fit on a name tag," said Mrs. Twinkle. "It would," said Rita. And Mrs. Twinkle said, I'm named after a flower too. You are, said Victoria. Yes, said Mrs. Twinkle. My name is Delapaloom. Delapaloom Twinkle. And if my baby is a girl, I'm considering naming her Chrysanthemum. I think it's absolutely perfect. Chrysanthemum could hardly believe her ears. She blushed. She beamed. She bloomed. Chrysanthemum! 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 Joe, Rita, and Victoria looked at Chrysanthemum longingly. Call me Marigold, said Joe. My name's Carnation, said Rita. My name is Lily of the Valley, said Victoria. Now they all want to be like her, don't they? Chrysanthemum did not think her name was absolutely perfect anymore. She knew that it was. Boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed the story of Chrysanthemum and my first time making a YouTube video. I will make more and hopefully they will be better.